I'm Billy S. Today we're talking about everybody's favourite Soulsborne character, Patches, as I rank each of his appearances. Because not every Patches is made equal, and some games have far more interesting variants than others. But honestly, he's just an iconic part of the franchise, and the main reason we all look forward to new Miyazaki-directed titles. Quick side note, I know he originally appears in Armored Core 4 Answer, but I haven't played it, and this is strictly for his Soulsborne appearances. So, let's jump right in. Every Patches appearance, ranked. Let me know your favourite version of Patches in the comments, and tell me, do you spare him or kill him in your playthroughs? At number 6, we have Patches the Hyena from Demon's Souls, the first game in the franchise. Now for me, this could be considered clear bias, as Demon's Souls is arguably the game in the series I have the least connection with, but even then, I have to respect that Patches is immediately in his troll era from the get-go. You first find him in 2-2 The Tunnel City, where he's planted in front of a treasure item. If you go to collect it though, a giant bear bug will fall down, blocking your path, which you then have to deal with. Or at least, that's how it's intended for you to handle the scenario. From my part, I killed the bear bug before I even noticed Patches was there, and its explosion upon death actually damages our favourite thief, which is just so fucking funny. Bro did not think in the slightest about how this plan would work. Then he moves to the Nexus as a vendor before appearing in 4-2 The Ritual Path, in a room behind the First Reaper. In the cell below is Saint Urbane, whom you can rescue yourself by dropping in there. But if Patches is around, he'll do his classic Patches kick and knock you into the void. Of all the Patches kicks, this is likely the least dangerous of them all. You barely lose health, you actively save a character, and you're on the right track moments later. I didn't feel bad about killing this version of Patches. He's extremely one-dimensional and comically evil at this point. Not a lot of character depth, that came later in the series. At number 5, we have Patches the Spider from Bloodborne, which is the most unique form Patches has taken in the series, I'll just say that. After beating Vicar Amelia and entering the Forbidden Woods, Patches will replace the NPCs normally found at any Red Lantern window, where he'll give you the Tonsil Stone and suggest that you explore to the east of the Great Cathedral. Of course, we don't know this is Patches visually, with the only hint being his distinctive voice, courtesy of William Vanderpoy. If you then choose to take Patches at his word, you can explore the area he hints at, which eventually will get you picked up by an invisible amygdala, which might be the first time regular players encounter one of these. He plans to sacrifice you to the amygdala, who he sees as his god, and so you arrive in the lecture building, and after chatting with Patches through a doorway, he sends you off to the Nightmare Frontier. But did you know you can also encounter him here as well? His classic treasure trinkets lure you to a cliff's edge where he pushes you into a poison swamp tunnel. And it's here we actually see some of his spidery limbs before the big reveal. It's one of the more effective pushes in the series, as we actually end up in poison, and depending on the direction the player takes after they get up, they might run into a winter lantern. My favourite moment comes when you enter the lecture building via the unseen village though, as you can now sneak into Patches' room from the floor above, revealing his spidery form and having him scuttle along the wall in horror. Now I am arachnophobic, which means this form of Patches is a no from me, but I really appreciate how malicious they make him in Bloodborne, while still conveying that once you kill Amygdala, he's gonna bow to you instead, becoming a merchant in the Chalice dungeons. However, I just don't find myself connecting to this form of the character. In fact, he's quite missable if you don't search to the right of the Grand Cathedral after your first chat, and he's also the reason why you explore the worst area in the game. Any character who makes me do the Nightmare Frontier isn't getting a high ranking on this list because I am petty. At number 4, we have Mild-Mannered Pate from Dark Souls 2, a stand-in for Patches due to the game not being developed by Miyazaki himself. Now, I was debating on whether to include Pate at all, because he literally isn't a Patches, but he fulfills a very similar role, and I really enjoyed what he brought to the table, so why not? You meet him 3 times in the game, the first in the Forest of Fallen Giants, where he'll talk about a treasure beyond a gate, but once you enter, the door closes behind you and a horde of enemies approaches. You can certainly kill them all, but it is overwhelming for the early game. What's interesting here though is that talking to Pate before you enter will actually have him tell you the trap exists. Unlike Patches, who tries to deceive you through falsehoods, Pate is more of a white lie kinda guy. He'll give you enough info so that you think you can trust him, but he's got malicious intentions when you dig deep enough. His second appearance is in the Earthen Peak, where he points you in the direction of a treasure across a gap, which he's too afraid to go after. Again, he lets you keep the treasure should you go for it, but it's so clear that he's hoping you'll die so he can prey on your downfall. But it's his third appearance I find most fascinating. He hints in previous dialogue that there is a man out for his life, Creighton the Wanderer, who we found earlier on locked in a house in the Huntsman's Copse. Locked in by Pate. When we reach Brightstone Cove Seldora, we're forced to pick between the pair who are fighting in one of the houses, and it's this decision I love, because neither choice here is good. We already know about Pate and how sus he is, but Creighton is actually a murderer from the land of Mirror, so either we help someone who has actively killed people, or we help someone who has tried to get us killed via various traps. It's that decision at the end that I truly love, and it really helps elevate both of these characters in their conflict, though I tend to save Creighton because Pate is just a bit too smug for my liking. Depending on which character you save, they actually get extra dialogue when you open a trapped chest later in the level, which is a nice detail. Dark Souls 2 may not have nailed everything, but they managed with their NPCs, and their Patches stand-in being more morally dubious was a nice twist. At number 3, we have Trusty Patches from Dark Souls. This was my first experience with everyone's favourite Bald, and I think this is Patches in the form that best exemplifies who he is. A trickster who is more than happy to kill you for your loot, but who also happens to have an insane grudge against clerics and those people of faith. You first meet him in the catacombs, where he stands by the lever which controls a large bridge, and he seems innocent enough. That is until as you cross the bridge, it begins to tilt, sending you to your doom if you don't jump off onto a nearby platform. Once this happens, it's your job to return to Patches and say, "What the fuck, Richard?" Patches will feign ignorance and move out of the way, allowing you to progress, but now you're sus. Which leads directly into his appearance in the Tomb of the Giants, where you can find Patches and his classic shinies that lead you towards him. "There's a treasure over there," he says, only to kick you into the pit because you were foolish enough to believe him. Now, like Demon Souls, this does lead to you rescuing an NPC, Rhea of Thorolund, whose envoy was also tricked by Patches, only they never found the way out. But the sheer darkness of the tomb makes this pit far more threatening than the Demon Souls variant. If you make your way back up to Patches, you can choose to forgive him or not. He'll eventually show up after beating Nito as a vendor in Firelink Shrine, or you can just kill him outright. Alternately, if you say that you're a cleric, he'll just aggro onto you immediately. There's a clear hint that clerics have been a problem for Patches in the past. Potentially he's been on the receiving end of abuse from the clergy, or he feels that the clergy is a corrupt organization that don't actually seek to help people, and this is a character trait that remains with Patches across all future appearances. However, that's kinda all there is to this variant. The last 2 Patches appearances on this list give him so much more depth that I just can't rank this one any higher. At number 2, we have Patches the Tarnished from Elden Ring. This is by far the most expansive Patches questline in the series, and really helps bring a new dimension to his character. You see, Patches is still an asshole, he always will be, but he's given more motivation this time around that I really respect. You first find him in Murkwater Cave, where you'll enter an empty boss room and open a chest, only for him to appear accusing you of raiding his stuff, which, technically, he's completely correct. You did wander in here, which leads to you defeating him, where you can either kill him or spare him so that he becomes a merchant. Returning later, his chest will be reset, and if you use it, it'll trapped chest teleport you into a clearing filled with rune bears. Again, fuck you, Patches, as this time he kinda baits you into it. You can next find him in Liurnia, where he hints at the Virgin Abductor at the bottom of Rea Lucaria, which he claims will warp you to the base of the Erd Tree, but actually warps you to the dungeons of Mount Gelmir's Volcano Manor. Sneaky sneaky. You can also find an encounter with him in Mount Gelmir, where he pushes you off a cliff. This time though, he tells you to steer clear of the Volcano Manor, which further hints at his current alignment, and this is confirmed as when you join the Recusants, Patches appears as an NPC. It's here though where I really like his character, as he shows a sincere fondness for Tanith, the leader of the manor in place of Rykard. He clearly likes her and wants her to be safe, upholding the values of the Volcano Manor for her, and it also explains his actions against you, the Tarnished. As the Recusants of the Volcano Manor attack other Tarnished, that is their role. He'll offload a job onto you during the Volcano Manor questline, which fuck you Patches, before eventually vanishing following Rykard's defeat. We find him then at the Shaded Castle right before Elimer's boss room, where he hands us the Dancer's Castanets and implores us to return them to Tanith. He mentions a slip-up and how he should stick to what he knows, which I find weirdly tragic. Patches genuinely tried to do something good, finding Tanith's castanets to try and help her, only to be injured in the search. And also for Tanith to not even be interested in them when you bring them to her, that's actually heartbreaking. And in the original version of the game, I thought Patches died here, having tried to change his ways only to go out self-sacrificing. But no, he just returns to Murkwater Cave and, after another rematch, becomes a permanent merchant, right back where he started. I really appreciate that they tried to give Patches a lot more depth in Elden Ring, but I wish that Tanith would have had some dialogue about him, so that the connection between them could be more intriguing. As it stands, it's clearly one-sided, but even a throwaway comment from her could have gone a long way here. But all of this is forgiven because of Patches being summonable for about 2 seconds in the Star Scourge Radahn fight. That is genuinely the funniest interaction to happen in this game. At number 1, we have Unbreakable Patches from Dark Souls 3, which is by far my favourite version of him, though it's also the version of Patches where it's way too easy to miss steps of his questline. For example, I very rarely get the cutscene in the Cathedral of the Deep where he lowers you into the Giant's Arena via the bridge, as I often clear out the cathedral in an order that means I tend to skip this encounter. But it is funny watching Patches rage when he goes through with the trap, but you've already killed the giant he's trying to feed you to. It's also a shame because he's dressed as Sigvard of Katarina, and I just think it's hilarious how he actually tries to mimic the voice. I always find him in my playthrough after buying the tower key at Firelink, as if you ascend to the top of the tower, he'll actually lock you in, so when you come back down, he's waiting at the door with a smug look on his face. I guess he didn't know we could parkour down the coffins instead. Patches is interesting though, because we actually see an instance here where he cares for more than just himself. Greyrat is an NPC you save early on, who you can send out for various missions. If, for whatever reason, you haven't bought the Katarina armor set off of Patches, he can go and save Greyrat in Irithyll of the Boreal Valley by dressing up as Sigvard. Though when we send Greyrat to Lothric Castle and tell Patches, he's unable to save his friend this time. It's a very subtle storyline, but I really like how Patches is connected to both Greyrat's questline and Sigvard's questline in ways that are pretty meaningful. If this was all though, Patches wouldn't be number 1. Let me tell you the real truth. The main reason this form of Patches is in this spot in the video is because of the Ringed City DLC, where he returns as Amnesiac Lap. Lap is a knight who has forgotten who he is at the end of the world. He seeks the Purging Monument in the Ringed City to recover his lost memories, and this shows a version of Patches who could genuinely be considered an ally. He points out a Titanite slab in Earthen Peak Ruins where, if you fail to get to it, he'll just go and grab it for you himself. You can summon him to help fight the Demon Prince, and you can help him through the Ringed City by finding the Purging Monument yourself. It's so fascinating watching a genuinely vulnerable Patches who spills his real feelings to you when you talk. It's like meeting the man behind the mask, who Patches could have been had things gone a bit differently. Fuck, the fact he can be a capable knight if he really wants to be is extremely telling. And his last dialogue before he returns to himself, he wants us to be a true friend. But no matter what he remembers, we would be considered his amigo. Which makes his final appearance where he kicks us down a hole hurt that much more. Except, he's our friend. The hole he kicks us down is actually the path we need to take in order to progress the level. Patches waxes poetry about the greed of man, yet he's just keeping up appearances. Even at this moment, he helped us. For the first time in the series, he truly decided to go out of his way to kick us in the right direction. And you even get to summon him for Half-Light, which I know he was excited for as a hater of the church. They just nailed his character in the Ringed City, and it's easily my favourite incarnation of his. Patches, no matter what you do, you are my friend. No matter what might come out, no matter what you were, if you would do me the honour, allow me to be a true friend, always. Even if my boyfriend fucking hates you and will kill you on every one of his playthroughs. And that's my list. Which Patches is your favourite? Let me know down below, and be sure to parry that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all my future videos. If you don't, Patches might kick you down a hole. I want to give a shout out to my YouTube channel members for supporting me for another month. $4.99, you get a shout out downstairs, you get a shout out in the video, and I'm hiccuping, oh god, you get the Dark Souls 3 Soul Level 1 playthrough. Oh god, this has gone horribly wrong. Okay, yeah, cool. Was there anything else? Social media, yes. Blue Sky, love it. Discord, love it. Twitch, I'll be back on Twitch in September. Great times. I'll see you next time. Adios.